Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and we've got the original three on tonight. Jason and Joe are joining us. Jason, welcome back from Las Vegas. Looks like the bowling went well, considering you were dealing with very tricky lane conditions. So congratulations, man.
Thanks. Yeah, it was tough, but it wasn't my best, but it wasn't my worst, so we'll take it. There should be some cash coming back at least.
There you go. Cash coming back is never a bad thing, and especially hard to do in Las Vegas. So well done. And I also heard you went.
We won't talk about the table games and that stuff. That won't. Yeah, we don't have to go there.
Yeah, but I heard the one sports bet you made, you landed on. So you're one of the few people who can legally and lawfully say they are walking away from Vegas with a perfect record betting. And thank God you don't live out there because that wouldn't last long.
Oh yeah.
Joe, how are you tonight?
Hanging in there, man. Hanging in there. Up and down week, but can't complain.
All right. So, Jason, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, this has been in our fridge for a while. Karen likes the Smirnoff Ice things, but she doesn't like peach. And I'm not a big peach person either. It was part of a combo pack that she had. So there's Smirnoff Ice Peach Lemonade, and it is...
too sweet.
Yeah. It is not one that I will try again.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I don't want to waste alcohol, so
I get that. My sister-in-law Abby likes the Truly fruit punches, and I took one sip of one once and thought I was immediately contracting diabetes. It was so sweet, so I get that. What about you, Joe? I think Joe froze.
Froze.
Well, when Joe is unfrozen here, I'll remove him until he's unfrozen. Until Joe is unfrozen, we'll move on to me. We went with the summer multi-pack from Trogs. And for me tonight is the Sunshine Salt and Lime Lager, as well as the Leisure Cruise, which is a raspberry wheat. So I'm excited for both of those. Yeah. You know me, I love lime lagers in the summer. You know, Cape May Brewing Company has forever ruined me of those forever, but any kind of a lime beer, yeah, I'm always down to try those.
Yeah, those are nice and refreshing over the summer.
All right, so looks like Joe is still reloading, so we'll move on, and once Joe pops back in, we will get him back in as soon as he's ready. So, leading it off tonight, Jason, Paul Skenes, welcome to the major leagues, man.
Yeah.
I know he didn't get the win, but holy crap, 1,700 plus mile an hour pitches. Damn.
Yeah, the dude is a beast. I would be willing to bet that within the next 3 years, he has to have Tommy John from throwing it so hard, so frequently, but fun debut to watch for sure.
Yeah. So, my notes from the game, Joe, Jason, sorry. I'm going to call this the second most anticipated debut of the season. I think Jackson Holiday probably had a little more pomp and circumstance around him being Matt Holliday's kid, of course. It was an eventful game. There were rain delays all over the place and, a string of a gazillion walks in a row by the Pirates pitching. I'm going to let Joe cover more of that when he gets to the Cubs segment. I won't get into that much, but, the talent that we've been hearing about from AAA looked legit. No arguments about that. He mixed the slider pretty effectively with that high velo fastball. That was at the splitter thing, that splitter sinker.
He calls it the sprinkler, I think. Something like that.
Hey, it worked. Whatever it was, it worked. So, some notes from manager Derek Shelton. He noted excitement was high, the challenge of maintaining control in a charged atmosphere. He highlighted the importance of him learning how to enhance his pitching efficiency, and Skenes also acknowledged that after the game as well. He was really amped up, and that's why he was through 85 pitches in like 4 1/3 innings. The fastest pitch was 101.9, which is the fastest ever recorded by a Pirates pitcher in the pitch tracking era, which is since 2008. And, that was a wild freaking game here. It looks like, is Joe back? Joe, are you actually back now?
Not a clue, man. Not a clue.
All right. Well, we're talking about Paul Skenes right now and that ridiculous start he had, pumping the velo, maybe overamping himself a little bit. It was your Cubbies that had to face him first, man. What were your thoughts? I know you were tight watching that game.
Yeah, hey, the guy can throw. That's for damn sure. Can't argue that. I do agree with Jason. I think we set the over under at 4 on the Tommy John, so I expect that to happen rather quickly.
Yeah.
But I do think too that it was funny because there was some people in the stands who somebody had a sign. I think their name might have been TJ, and had the letters "TJ loves Skenes," and someone said, "Get that shit away from him as fast as you can." Like, we don't need those letters anywhere near Paul Skenes right now. And I think myself, well, you're gonna have it, so you might as well get used to it.
That's great.
Jesus, man. But yeah, like the thing with Skenes and his pitching, like he was mixing in that slider so well, where the batters had to really just try and sit on the fastballs. So they were essentially just way out in front whenever that slider came in, and they just couldn't hold up. But I know we lost Joe again here.
Oh, jeez.
But or maybe he just there he goes. But basically 4 innings, solid debut. He definitely did not have the control, which I think he'll definitely settle in there. But there's definitely a reason why I picked him up for our fantasy league about 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, without a doubt. Joe just messaged over. He's dealing with some BS on the network side, kind of like you the other week, Jason. So, yeah. All right. So, yeah, I honestly, I'm just, it's too early to say, of course, but what are you thinking, like, ceiling level for this guy is going to be? Where do you think he's going to hit? I think he's going to be a multi-Cy Young winner.
I think he's going to win at least one. He's definitely going to become whatever he ends up going to after this current contract. He's definitely top of the rotation starter, and he's going to have a good career, especially if he can stay healthy. He'll be fine.
Yeah. I'd ask, do you think he's going to be a Hall of Famer? That's dumb to even try and project that after one start and an unknown history, an unknown injury future in front of him. So we're not going to set that expectation, but I will say that was some damn good looking stuff on all the replays.
And his line looks worse than it actually was. He was tagged for 3 runs when he initially gave up 1, but the other 2 came in when his bullpen came in for relief, and after striking out 2 batters, walked 4 straight on 15 out of 16 balls, in a row. So,
and it was bad. Like, you can't even try and blame the ump on that. They were just bad.
It was awful. So those extra 2 runs, they're charged to him, but his bullpen let him down there.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, we will skip over the Mike Trout question for now, since that's Joe's. We'll wait till Jason, I'll be nice to you. I'll wait till Joe gets back to do fantasy too.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll talk. Let's talk about our how should I put it? Our chronic basement dwelling NL East. Not really a rival, because ever since they won a World Series, they've sucked, the Nationals. In winning game 1 of that series against the Orioles, they hit 500 for the first time since July of 2001. Now,
That's
granted,
crazy.
They didn't stay there long. I understand that they didn't stay there long, and nobody expected them to. But the fact that they even got to 500 is, the rebuild is working.
Yeah, and they have some players in the system that, once they come up, I think they'll be fine. Robert Hassel, who I believe was one of the trade pieces they got back in the Juan Soto deal to the Padres. He's looking good. I actually ended up looking at him potentially for down on the farm this week, but there was another person that stood out a little bit more. So, but yeah, I think the Nationals are starting to work their way up. It's going to be quite some time, but there's signs. They're starting to show some signs of life.
For me personally, it reminds me of like 2017 when Atlanta started trickling up guys. Like you started seeing Acuna at the end of the year, started bringing up Albies. For you, Jason, it was probably not too long away from that where you started seeing the young guys coming up for the Phillies. It's baseball's going to cycle. It's always going to cycle. You're going to have the down years after the good years. But yeah, it looks like the Nationals might finally, after trading away like basically everything that wasn't bolted down for a couple of years, looks like they might finally be ready in the next couple of years to start competing again. So it's good to see.
Yeah.
All right. And Joe is back. Welcome back, Joe.
Sorry about that, guys. I appreciate you holding it down.
Nah, that's all right. We'll take 3. So Joe, let's hop back up for a second since you got cut off. What are you drinking tonight anyway?
SoCo and Mountain Dew, which I apparently need more of right now.
I was going to say, he's just going to go straight to the SoCo from the bottle.
Yeah. YOLO. Joe, did you have any other thoughts on Skenes other than what Jason and I pointed out?
I don't think so. I mean, I have more to elaborate on the weekend in general in sports and read the room, so I'll just leave it for there.
All right, fair enough. All right, Joe, we're going to hop back up. We hopped down a little bit while you were gone, so we'll let you lead off with the question you asked us a couple weeks ago about Mike Trout. So take it away, man.
Yeah, I mean, with the latest injury to Mike Trout, I think it's time to start asking the question: is Mike Trout overrated? I think personally, I'll kind of give my thoughts, and then I'll let you guys kind of go on the attack mode after that. Number one, I think obviously the best ability is availability, and he doesn't have it anymore. Like he just can't. He barely gets through half a season at this point, if we're lucky. To me, the unfortunate thing about this is, as good as he was supposed to be, I just feel like obviously he hasn't lived up to that. And to me, if you were having a Hall of Fame election today, he doesn't get in. I just don't think that the numbers are going to be there because he just hasn't been able to produce. At some point, it's no longer getting in on the hype and getting in on results. And I mean, I know this year up until he got hurt, he was having some results finally. But this is a guy who perennially gets voted into the All-Star game and perennially never makes it to the All-Star game.
That's fair.
And I think at this point, like if you're going to, does the hype match what we've gotten out of him? And to me, it doesn't. As good as he could have been, I think he ends up being in the Hall of could have been great, but not Hall of Fame anymore. And the other thing I think too is that I think if I were commissioner for one day, one thing I would do in regards to Trout is make a minimum games rule for the All-Star game and call it the Trout rule, because the guy gets elected to the All-Star game every single year and never gets to play because he's always hurt. And at some point, you're not an All-Star if you can't perform.
As for the All-Star game, remember a bunch of that's determined by fan voting. And until you decrease the value of the fan vote, you're always going to have favorites get in, whether they deserve to get in or not. We see it every single year. You have at least a couple guys on each side, not counting the obligatory one man per team rule, which honestly, I think that should go away.
That should go away too. Yeah, for sure.
Like we want to complain about participation trophies. Okay, there's a participation trophy that we can get rid of right there, that every team should have a rep. As far as Trout goes, this is tough It's really tough to say because before he got hurt, he was ridiculous. I mean, the dude's already got 3 MVPs. He's got the Rookie of the Year. He was the runner-up for the MVP 4 times now. Ever since he started to get hurt from 2021 on, he still was top 10 in MVP voting twice, and he got a Silver Slugger twice. So even though he's not performing as much, he is still performing. No, I'm sorry. 2020 was one of those top 5s. Never mind. So top 10 once, Silver Slugger once. He played half the year last year, not great. He played 119 games back in 22, only 36 in 21, and 29 so far this year. He's still out producing Anthony Rendon, let the record show.
To be fair, that's not hard to do.
Yeah, I know. When you're not really worried about baseball being a priority, that does tend to happen.
I mean, Nick Madrigal outproduces Anthony Rendon at this point, and that's hard. That's him, and that's terrible. Just kidding.
You're not wrong. So here's my question. I'm going to ask you back, Joe. Should Trout be if Trout were to retire today? Are we judging Trout as a whole, or is Trout going to get the Sandy Koufax treatment where we're going to acknowledge the fact that he had an injury-shortened career but one hell of a peak? Because I would like to remind you, Mike Trout is at 378 home runs, a career 299 hitter, and he's got 86.3 career WAR. So
Andrew just taken every single stat that I have pulled up ready to go right now.
So, Jason, before we toss it back, if there are 1 or 2 tidbits that I missed, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal everything.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Because I think that they are important stats. You mentioned the batting average, over 1,600 career hits. You mentioned the home runs, 954 runs batted in. He has 212 stolen bases, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
11-time All-Star, 9-time Silver Slugger Award, 2-time Hank Aaron Award winner. And you mentioned his WAR, his career WAR, which is really good. The other thing that I was looking at here is if you look at his career, I'm going to go away from the 2020 season because he did play 53 out of the 60 games.
Right.
So take that out of consideration. There are 3 out of 3 years of his full season career where he was less than 100 games played. He was over 100, almost, and did essentially full seasons from 2012 through 2019. His lowest there was 2017, where he was at 114 games, but everything else was a minimum of 134 games. Then you had the shortened 2020 season where he still was 53 out of the 60. But then 2021, 36, 2022, 119, 82 in 2023, and now only 29 so far this year. So I think when we consider Hall of Fame and whether somebody's overrated, we want to look at their hype, their peak, and their stats. So as far as being overrated, right now, I would say yes, but for his career, I would say no. Because it is possible to be great and still be a little bit overrated. So I would say Hall of Fame numbers, as far as Hall of Fame goes, his peak was so good that I don't see how he doesn't get it.
What do you think, Joe?
Hey, the numbers are what the numbers are. I'm not going to necessarily argue one way or the other. I just felt that it just kind of feels like some of those, I know you mentioned the 11 All-Stars. How much of that is fan voting? Should he really be counted for 11 when he probably
2021? I would take 2021's out when he only played 36 games all year. That one was straight up fan voting.
Right.
Last year, I don't think I would take last year's away from him. But yeah, 2021 was straight up the fan vote put him in. I mean, to be fair, when he got hurt and went down, he was batting 333, 466, 624. It's not like he was having a terrible, not worthy of an all-star appearance season had he not gotten hurt. It is tough though when you have a guy that didn't even play half of the first half of the year that gets put in, as an elected all-star when his number said yes, but the injury said no. That one's tough. I do agree, and we're all-star numbers are always going to be what they are because the popularity contest is a thing, and that's never going to go away. And we're always going to have guys that make it in that we all go, yeah, that's straight up the fans deciding to put him in. He should not be there. Right? That's always going to be like that.
Trust me, there's a few times that KB was in there that he didn't belong.
Yes,
and I was vehemently opposed to him getting in. I never voted for him when he didn't deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have. It's been years since I did a straight team ballot like that. That's some crap I did as a teenager. Ever since I became a more analytical follower of the game, I have not done that in so long, and it drives me nuts. The people that just go straight team, like, come on, be a good fan, learn the players.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Jason, I think you said it best. As a career overrated, no. Right now, yes. I think that's the best. I think that's the perfect way to put it. So we'll see. Hopefully, he's able to get back relatively quickly and is able to keep performing this year because one, I have him on my fantasy roster and would really like that production back because my hitting has been garbage. But two, he's such a good guy. I mean, he's already a 30-30 club member. His first full year in the majors, he stole 49 freaking bases, for God's sake. He already has 6 this year. So the speed's not gone. So, and the game's better when he is in and playing. So let's hope that continues. All right. So moving on, speaking of wishing he was back from my fantasy team, let's move on to fantasy. The results from last week, week 6, are in the books. I beat Ronnie 12-11, just held on despite my, I think, 207 offensive batting average last week. Let's see here. Turner and Chooch, 18-7 over Happy and Hornsby. Jesus, Joe. What the hell happened?
My pitching happened is what happened.
Yeah.
Jesus, dude.
Oh my gosh, that was insane. I think you had some ridiculous stat on Friday, and I'm like, well, that's never catching.
I had like 20
Only
double
one?
plays turned.
Yeah, you had like 20 double plays turned. I think you had like 60 strikeouts on Friday. I'm like, this is freaking stupid.
Yeah.
I had like 6 or 7 quality starts, and this was the changes.
Some weeks where you just toss it.
The changes that I've made to my team over the last few weeks are starting to pay off. As we've seen over the last couple of weeks, I've started climbing back up the ranks here. I jumped over. Is it Tim? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So actually, speaking of the standings, because Tim put a beat down on Todd this week, 17-7. So we had a little shakeup. I'm leading the way still, 95, 57, 16. The top 3 did not change. Despite his beat down, Todd's still second, 14 and a half games back. He lost a lot of ground there. And Joe, you're still holding at third at 20 and a half. But Jason, you have risen up from 4th to 3rd at 24 back. Tim has left the basement at 26, and Ronnie crumbled from the 4th position down into the basement where he spent all of last year at now 29 games back.
I told him a couple weeks ago that I was coming for him after starting to figure it out for my team and get them turning it around. So from the basement, like 3 or 4 weeks ago up to 4th place right now.
You're in the last spot in the playoffs right now.
But and I mean, not far behind Joe. I was thinking, I was like, Joe has been my Marlins, just that thorn in the side that just cannot beat well, the Phillies took care of the Marlins this weekend, and I finally got a chance to take it to Joe, which, sorry, Joe, but it's about damn time.
He's not that sorry, Joe.
Yeah. Hey, man, what can I say?
All right, let's look at the major fantasy injuries from this past weekend. This first one, straight garbage by the Cardinals pitching or their coaching staff, and I'm going to put this entirely on them. Wilson Contreras in the 10-day IL with a fractured forearm after the coaching staff wanted him to move up to hoping that he could frame pitches better. He got hit on the backswing, and he was in immediate pain heading off the field. Like you could tell, something is broken, and you will not see Wilson back on the field for quite some time.
It wasn't on the backswing.
That wasn't on the backswing. He was
on the
swinging.
It was on the actual swing.
Front one.
That it looked like he took an axe down to that forearm.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible.
That's even worse. Jesus.
Yeah, that was on the swing itself, not the backswing. That was just awful. You could see the bone moving on the video. Like, it was bad.
Oh. So is it as bad as when you watch the slow-mo replay of a football player whose ankle gets caught and then twisted the wrong way as he is brought down for, a season-ending injury? Was it quite that?
No. It's definitely not like, it's not Anderson Silva breaking his entire leg bad, but it's bad.
I was going to go Dante Culpepper snapping all 3 ligaments in his knee, but yeah, that works too.
I mean, but JT has done this before. Like he's gotten hit with catcher interference before. Like he swings a little bit down first and then in, and then that's like he got called for the catcher got called for something similar against JD last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to say, a lot of times when they call catcher interference on the swing, a lot of times I think it's the hitter manipulating their swing, not the catcher sticking their glove too far out, personally.
Typically, that's what it looks like to me when I see it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Call it on the catcher. But the batter kind of, if the batter drops his hip so that the bat goes lower, that's on the batter.
Yeah. All right. Shohei Ohtani currently day-to-day with a back injury. They're not expecting to need him on the IL. Michael Conforto is of San Francisco, the first of many. So first it was Arizona losing pitching. Now it's San Francisco losing outfielders. So Conforto's on the 10-day with a strained right hamstring. Jung-Hoo Lee is day-to-day pending an MRI. He has either a separated or dislocated shoulder after slamming it into the top of the wall trying to make a jumping catch. And Austin Slater's day-to-day with concussion symptoms. So if you are an outfielder for San Francisco, I wish you the best of luck right now because ouch.
Yeah.
And then Austin Riley left the game yesterday with a side injury while batting. MRI today. It was taken later in the day, so it had not resulted before the show started. We're not sure what the results of that are going to show as of this point. Oakland, Paul Blackburn, right-handed pitcher, 15-day IL with a foot injury. Evan Carter, the outfielder with the Rangers, day-to-day lingering back soreness. He's actually scheduled to see a specialist today, so I'm thinking IL is probably going to be pretty likely there. And Joe, I know you're not too heartbroken over this. I know Jason is neither. Alzolay went on the 15-day IL with a forearm injury. So, Joe, I have to ask, is this a legitimate forearm injury, or is this a Kyle Hendricks, he just needs a little time in AAA to straighten his head out injury?
I don't know. But, I mean, the fact that he already went for imaging probably makes me feel like it's real.
Okay.
But, hey, he didn't blow it yesterday somehow.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder if he's been injured for most of the season, a la Craig Kimbrell, where just having trouble overall closing games. Because, after that first week or two, like he absolutely had to be dropped from my fantasy team. It was almost like I think Andrew, it was like Ryan Helsley for you last year.
Oh my God! I will never draft that guy again.
Just absolutely unreliable, costing you points and whatnot, and he was costing the Cubs games.
Yeah.
So
more on that in a few minutes. I'm actually going to cover some of that under Read the Room instead of during the Cubs. So
nice.
All right, guys. Did I miss any major fantasy injuries this past week you want me to mention?
There's two.
Okay.
So two, both unfortunately with the Phillies, who are already a little banged up with losing Turner, but Kyle Schwarber is currently day to day with some back tightness.
Oh yeah, okay, I did see
He
that.
was going to be swinging over yesterday and today. They don't think he'll be on the IL. He doesn't think he'll be on the IL. He's feeling better. Just as a precaution, it's a long season. You don't want him to be on there for an extended period of time. So just send him for a little bit. And they've been facing some tough lefties over the last few days. So it's a good time to rest him. And then the other one, which is a little more concerning. Again, they don't think he's going to spend time on the IL, but JT Realmuto is down with some knee soreness.
Ooh,
he felt it back on like May 3rd or May 4th when he was I think he was going around for a triple. He was just feeling a little banged up from it, and it got to the point now where it was sore enough that he was like, you know what, I think I just need a break. But again, it seems like he's feeling fine. They're not anticipating an IL stint for him. But again, it's one of those, hey, long season. If there's anybody on that team that you need for the long haul, it's going to be JT Realmuto, because Garrett Stubbs is not a good defensive catcher, at least in my opinion.
No.
And not even anywhere near the level of JT Realmuto. So
Garrett Stubbs, in my opinion, is a worse defensive catcher than Travis d'Arnaud.
I mean, he's really fast, bad. And I mean, tonight he had a drag bunt single for an RBI. It was a perfectly placed bunt. That he's fast enough that he was able to beat it out and got a run in, but he doesn't call the games like JT Realmuto does. We saw that yesterday where he and Wheeler were not on the same page, and Wheeler had his worst outing of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it is nothing serious with Realmuto. They haven't done any imaging. They don't feel that they need to do any imaging or anything like that. So right now it's sore, rest, and then be good for the long haul.
Yep. All right. Joe, who needs to read the room?
I'm going to start with MLB Network. They put this stupid graphic up about career splits by league by Yamamoto. And so I'll read the numbers off because it's important. His Japan numbers: ERA 1.82, WHIP 0.94, hits per 9 6.4, and K per 9 9.3. And then his MLB numbers to this point: 1.76, a 0.9 WHIP, 6.6 hits per 9, and 9.9 Ks per 9. The important part about this stupid graphic, and they highlight it at the bottom, is that they took off the start in the Seoul series to skew the numbers in favor of him looking really, really good.
You can't take that off. That was an official MLB start.
I was told that was an official game. I mean, I had to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch it, but I was told it was an official game.
It counts for their record.
Right.
It counts for the record.
They have a little blip at the bottom of the graphic that says MLB excludes first start in the Seoul series. That was a real game. You can't freaking do that. Like, what the hell is that? I mean, if I wanted to pull that, Kyle Hendricks is off to a really great start if you exclude 6 starts earlier in the season.
That's politicking right there. It's politicking. Selectively picking your stats.
It's absolute garbage. Stop manipulating the numbers. Either he's really good or he's not. And that one start matters because he got absolutely hammered.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolute garbage. That really pissed me off because I'm like, and people were calling them out. They're like, you can't exclude a stat to make your argument more legitimate. That's not how this works.
Yeah, that's not going to pass peer review. Sorry, guys.
That was so garbage. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. The other thing I wanted to talk about is TV focusing on the right things during the broadcast, or focusing on the wrong things, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start off with we've talked endlessly about Sunday Night Baseball and the shit show that television is. But the other thing I think we want to highlight is Jason mentioned this a ton in the group chat. During the Paul Skenes game, MLB Network and Root Sports are interviewing his girlfriend instead of his parents. This is a guy's major league debut. And don't get me wrong, I understand that his girlfriend apparently is very good looking and is all over the internet. I get it. But for the love of God, number one, she didn't get him to the big leagues. His parents did, with all of their efforts when he was a kid, with that support. And it's just ridiculous. Like, again, I understand, has a lot of online influence and all that stuff, but I just don't understand the priority there. Interview the parents first. If you want to interview both of them, fine. But the parents should be first. This is stupid. Our priorities are so mixed up, and this is garbage.
Yeah, just to touch on that, Joe. It's one where I'm sure anybody listening in or watching knows, but Paul Skenes' girlfriend is Olivia Dunn, or Livy Dunn, who's a gymnast was a gymnast. I believe she graduated at LSU, and she's got millions of dollars in endorsements and NIL stuff and things like that. Very, very big influencer on like TikTok and Snapchat, things like that. And it's to the point where, I've even mentioned, I've been like, Paul Skenes is Mr. Livy Dunn, but for his debut yesterday in our chat, I said, I'm going to set the over-under for Livy Dunn appearances on the TV at 6.5. And it was a pretty good line because it wound up being 6. And there was one interview while Paul Skenes was in the game, and it was her and not the parents. And I get it, but I don't at the same time. Like,
it's Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce all over again.
It is.
I did see people are like, oh, so she's basically baseball's Taylor Swift.
Essentially, yes.
I mean, maybe with 1/10 of the popularity of Taylor Swift, maybe. It's much like standard music. You cannot deny the popularity that she has.
Right, so. Right. It is a bit of that. And the other thing that I think is just like, come on, guys. Like, seriously? Yeah. The parents should have been highlighted, number one. Number two, it's Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah, even more of a time where you should be featuring mom.
Yeah, it's absolute garbage, and that really pissed me off. Just as much as the Taylor Swift crap pissed me off, because they weren't doing that for Simone Biles when the Packers are on.
True.
Like, come on now. If we're gonna do this celebrity spouse thing, do it for everybody. Or don't do it for anybody.
Speaking of spouses, as you can tell, my wife is very much a Swiftie. Let's go, Taylor. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, shake that off. Whatever. The other thing, along with this Yamamoto crap, was calling Skenes' start amazing. And I know you highlighted this a little bit when I was in and out. But yeah, did he throw really well? Did he have 7 strikeouts? Yeah. And I know that the bullpen hurt him, but it doesn't matter. You can't cherry pick stats. His ERA is 6.75. It wasn't a great start. Get over it.
Well, I feel like with all of this, I feel like with all of this stuff, Joe is seeing red.
You could say that, yeah.
So
there's no blank spaces in this brain today. Let's just put it that way.
Joe's gonna have some teardrops on his guitar.
Not at all. Not at all. Look, and the last part of this is you talked about this a bit with the Cardinals, but I'm going to kind of lump it all together here. The Cardinals coaching. No other team would miss on the following 3 outfielders, and this is just 3 of like the 6 that they've missed on. Arozarena, Carlson, and Jordan Walker. You can't miss on 3 guys like that, and along with 3 or 4 others that they've missed on, and say it's the player at this point. Something organizationally is terribly wrong. Jordan Walker went down to AAA and is on an 8-game hitting streak. It's not the kid. It's the organization.
Yep.
It's absolute garbage.
And
And the fact that they extended Marmol like before the season started, as much as I love that the fact that the Cardinals are not doing well, it's terrible for Cardinals fans, and it's terrible for the game because when the Cardinals are good, it's awesome. Let's just be honest about it. Like when the Cardinals are good, it's good for the game. And this is just pathetic. This is absolutely pathetic.
And I remember, back when we had our previous show when we were talking with Zach about it, and our resident Cardinals fan, and he was just not happy with that extension and with what they've done. So, and it's coming back to show.
Yeah. And then you talk about you mentioned Wilson Contreras and that whole mess and that nonsense, making him move up and then getting hit. That was a recipe for disaster, which is just ridiculous. They put all the blame on Wilson last year, whether he deserved it or not. And the other thing too that I saw yesterday was that Steven Matz made his start on the 30th of April. And the Cardinals knew going in that he was compromised physically heading into it. He talked his way into pitching. Now he's got a significant injury, and he'll miss at least a month. I mean, look, I dealt with athletes who try to talk their way on the field before. I totally get it. But at the same time, you have to be the adult in the room for the medical staff and say, look, dude, this isn't worth it. You've got 4 or 5 months left in the season. This is ridiculous, which leads me into the last part of this. Injury management in general. Not only Steven Matz, not only Wilson Contreras, but Dansby fucking Swanson is pissing me off. The fact that he played for a week and a half before he went on the IL, making bonehead play after bonehead play, bad throws, struggling mightily at the plate, and nobody said, okay, enough's enough. You tried to play through this for one day, we're done. No, it's ridiculous. Somebody needs to grow up and say, the players need to grow up and say, I don't need to be an Iron Man. I don't. It's better for me to be available in October than it is to be available in May against a garbage Astros team and the rest of that difficult schedule they've had. I mean, it's ridiculous. You're putting your team at risk. As much as Adbert has been terrible, Swanson has contributed to that because he made 1 or 2 bonehead errors when Alzolay was on the mound, and that cost him a game. It's ridiculous. His batting has been awful. It's May, guys. You major league players, it's May. Relax. Take a day off. Take a week off. Pete Alonso took a day off and is freaking big tearing the cover off the ball in the last week. I mean, it's not that difficult, guys. You don't have to be Iron Man. There's not going to be another Cal Ripken. Get over it.
Well said.
Yeah.
So it's bad that you're like Iron Man, and I just keep going to Tony Stark and Marvel for some reason. I'm like, I am Iron Man, but no, I agree. It's early yet. It is a marathon, not a sprint of a season. Yes, you can fall back a little bit at this time, but if you're going to be a playoff team, you need to make sure that you're fine for the playoffs come October and November. So take the time now to be ready for the long haul. Yeah,
it's just ridiculous to try and play through crap when you don't have to.
Yep, complete agreement. Jason, you have been called out by my wife. Please do an Arc of Taylor reference as always. This is the best episode ever because it won't be me doing that.
I'll say I'm going to be the anti-hero because I will not be doing that either.
All I can say is, Livy Dunn, look what you made me do.
Oh man! All right, and so I've got one minor read the room rant, very minor, especially compared to Joe's. Trogs, I love this summer pack of beer. Do me a favor next time when you're going to line the beers up on the freaking box. Put them in the box that way so I don't feel like I need to open both ends because the 2 beers I want are on opposite sides of the freaking box. Just saying. As I said, very minor, but annoying as hell. All right, Joe, how about the Cubs? Because I know you also had some segues from the Skenes segment you wanted to hop on as well.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a lot of them, but I think, this week it was a 3-3 week for the Cubs. The Padres series was just deflating, to put it mildly. This is definitely not their best era against the Padres right now. They ran into a buzzsaw with Darvish and Cease this week. Darvish and Cease alone had 17 strikeouts against the Cubs. The Cubs had 34 strikeouts in the series. They struck out 34 times in the series against the Padres.
Damn.
That's just awful. Like, it just can't happen. The most exciting part of that series was the Michael Busch walk-off right when the lightning bolt strikes when he hits the damn ball and they avoid a rain delay, because that would have been awful.
Man, that bat deserves to have a lightning bolt carved into the barrel.
It sure does. Like, it was just like all of a sudden it came back to the bottom of the ninth inning and it's downpouring. And the first pitch Busch sees, he jacks way out. And you're like, okay, good. Game's over. We don't have to have a rain delay. And holy crap, there was lightning in the back. Like, absolutely nuts. Yeah. Apparently you could hear the Cub fans singing "Go Cubs Go" from like a mile away. There were some people who were like outside of Wrigleyville and they're like, I can hear it from my house. What the heck?
Nice.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, that was the best part of this series. But Darvish and Cease, obviously guys I'm huge fans of, just carved up the Cubs. It was just awful. The Pirates series, on the other hand, they take 2 of 3 there, 7-2 on Friday. They win 5-4 yesterday somehow, and they lose 10-9 on Saturday in what was a mess of a game with that goofy rain delay. I think that rain delay was an hour or so, maybe 2. And it just kind of went sideways after that. The best part of, I think, the series for the Cubs was a couple of things. Belly's offense, he feels like he hasn't missed a beat since he's been back off injury, which is exactly what they needed. The other thing I would say is that Seiya is back, and he went 2 for 5 on Saturday, so he hasn't lost too much either with being out about a month. And Ben Brown, who famously came over to the Cubs in the David Robertson trade, has been starting a lot of the year and has been decent, but just not really gotten over the cusp. And then now he's in the bullpen now with the guys coming back. And he went 3 2/3 on Friday night, 2 hits, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. Absolutely locked down that game, which was nice to see him do, because it's the first time he'd gotten a chance to go real long in relief since moving to the bullpen. The other good news is that the professor is back. He pitched yesterday afternoon. More, 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, more what we're used to seeing from Kyle. 5 strikeouts. He did give up 1 homer, a solo shot, which, again, as you've heard me say before, I'll take that. And 4 walks, which is higher than he usually does, but I think, you'd rather have him miss corners and outside the zone than miss and leak over the middle with that sinker, especially because it doesn't have a ton of speed on it. So I would rather have the walks than him leaking over the plate like he was before the IL. So, all things considered, if you're a Cub fan, if you had told me they would have 14 guys hit the IL between the beginning of the season and today and be 24-17 and only a half game back, I'll take it. I mean, you can't beat that with the amount of injuries they've had, especially on the pitching front. And to have Cody and Seiya out at the same time is absolutely insane. The other thing I will say is that this week was Heart Attack Hector week. It was absolutely nuts. Watching or listening to Hector Neris pitch, and I'm just like, oh my God, come on.
I don't miss those days.
Well,
I was about to say, Jason, you probably have permanent heartburn from those days.
I'll say that's one of those where I'm that is it John Franco, I think, with the news around like first time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really. Yeah, it's one of those things where you're just like, oh my gosh. I mean, he's gotten out of every jam he's been in, but it's just like, I don't know if I can take
James
that.
Franco, not John Franco. James Franco.
Yeah. John Franco was the closer for the Mets back in the 90s.
Yeah.
See baseball.
Yeah, see baseball. And apparently that nickname is what the pitching room calls Hector. So that's even funnier, according to Hayden Wisniewski. So that's hilarious.
I'm amazed the Phillies bullpen never came up with something like that. That's brilliant. Or nobody along the way came up with that yet. Damn.
Well, Joe, something with the Cubs here. You mentioned how you're glad that they're where they are after all that they've been going through. And that's the whole thing right now. It's like when you have players hurt, when you have injuries on your team that can really affect your team, to some star players, it's about just keeping your head above water, just staying in the mix. So when they come back, you can take back off again. So, they're doing what they need to do, which is just hang close.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see them keep doing that, because this is a team that if management were different, say like last year, they would not be in this position. Yeah. Council has done a great job of using Patrick Wisdom in situations where he'll actually be successful. Morel has been a surprise at third base. Mm-hmm. And the only thing, if I had to nitpick anything, I would send Madrigal and Mastrobuoni down and bring up Jake Slaughter, who's been hitting the cover off the ball, and Luis Vazquez is a shortstop in Iowa who's been really, really doing well this year. They need pop in the lineup, and Madrigal just doesn't deliver that.
Yep, I agree with that. All righty, let's move it on. Jason, what about down on the farm this week?
Yeah, so down on the farm this week, the hitter of the week is Carlos Rodriguez of, I'm sorry to kick you while you're down, Joe, the Biloxi Shuckers, the Brewers AA team.
That's a great name, though.
It is. But the reason he's there right now, this past week he went 12 for 19, which is a .631 batting average. And what's impressive about that is he had no home runs, only had one double and one triple. So 10 out of those 12 hits were singles, but he still knocked 6 runners in. So Carlos Rodriguez for the hitter this week. And the pitcher, Andrew, you'll appreciate this one. Ian Mejia of the Mississippi Braves, the AA team for Atlanta. He went 2-0 this week. 12 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks. I normally don't put this in here, but because the Braves, I have to. 1 hit by pitch, and but he did have 16 strikeouts though. So so a heck of the week for Ian Mejia, AA of the Braves. So
let's get him up to AAA soon.
I was gonna say maybe a name for you to keep track of in the future here.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it. I have a list of non-top 30s I like to keep an eye on. He's going on.
Yeah.
All right, so moving it on, the Orioles. Their streak of series straight without being swept almost got snapped by the Nationals, but it didn't. So they are currently at 104 consecutive series without being swept. First of all, can I go on a side rant and say these 2-game miniseries are bullshit and should just go away? They're stupid. Get rid of them. I don't need to see them. Anyway, they did need 10 innings to win the second game 7-6 to split that series, but then they turned themselves back into the Orioles again and beat up on the Diamondbacks. They won games 1 and 2, 4-2, 5-4, and 11, and then lost the last game of the series 9-2. When you're facing Zach Gallen, good luck getting your offense going. He has just been so good this year. So
I just have to give you props quickly for saying his name right this time.
Finally.
So kudos to you. I'm not saying Zach Gallen.
Yeah, I blame our old bio teacher at Warwick for screwing that one up.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, good week for the Orioles. They were probably hoping to do better against the Nationals, but splits, nothing wrong with that. I have to say, I liked the look of the two City Connect uniforms against each other. I thought that was a nice look with them. And I still think it's sad that the Nationals are going to retire theirs after this year because it was a solid one. Honestly.
I do like the Nationals one with the cherry blossoms on it, and
I just wish they would have made them pink, make them pop against the gray background. Yeah. But anyway, so good week for the Orioles. Offense is still ticking. The pitching's been there. Big Jim's got to be absolutely happy and overjoyed with how they're playing. So we got to get him on again soon. Remind me to shoot him a message.
Yeah, I'm just glad that they ended up winning one of those two games, because losing your sweepless streak on a 2-game set and to the Nationals would have been absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous had that happened.
Yeah.
All right, and then Ipepi Mizuhara has pled guilty. He is Ohtani's former interpreter, pled guilty to federal charges of bank fraud and submitting a false tax return. I know, a gambler submitting a false tax return. Who would have thought? The plea agreement includes full restitution to Ohtani, which is almost $17 million. I'd love to know how the hell he's going to ever repay $17 million, but we'll see. Possible reduced sentencing. The max sentence for both crimes would be 33 years and fines of $1.25 million. And a lot of that's because of the false tax return. It's also been revealed that he not only manipulated Ohtani's access to his own bank accounts by changing communications preferences to ensure that they would come to him directly, but he also actually physically impersonated Ohtani on the phone calls when the banks would call to approve transfers, and he did that at least 24 times. I think at this point, guys, we're probably safe to say Ohtani likely is probably clear to be exonerated at this point. What a shyster, honest to God.
Like, that is just true con man stuff. Like that is just like, I don't want to say the term evil genius because it's not genius, but like,
I mean, it kind of is.
Yeah, like, I don't like to have that mindset of like, and that deception of, I can't like just wrap my head around like how he was able to do all of this stuff and that he thought about how to do all of this stuff. Like, and for so long.
I got nothing, man.
I still don't know how you don't miss $16 million out of your bank account. I still don't understand that part of this equation. And the other thing, too,
it must
for
be
me,
nice to make that much to not notice 16
like,
million missing.
Are you freaking kidding me? And the other thing is, what I wish they would release the name of the bank, because I would tell people, don't ever bank there again.
I use a credit union, and they are based in Pennsylvania, so I know I'm in the clear from this.
Holy
like
shit.
This is like Ocean's 11 grade shit here. Like,
it's not good enough to not get caught.
True.
And why are you doing it with gambling? Like, come on. You're never going to be a winner in the long run. There are so few bookies that are actually able to win hundreds of millions of dollars, and the ones that get success, they start getting banned. So, yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah, this is such a mess. I just, yeah. It sounds like he's not going to jail, is he?
He will. He probably won't go for the full 33 years, though.
Man, this is a mess. I don't understand it.
I don't know that he'll be getting the money back to pay Ohtani back by stamping license plates. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, those guys get paid what, a couple bucks an hour. They don't even make federal minimum. So
how the hell is he going to make the money back to pay Ohtani? That's the part I don't understand.
Yeah, he's not. He's not.
I'm sure Ohtani already has written it off as he's never going to see it again. And honestly, with that contract he signs, why would he care?
Well, I mean, to be fair, he is only getting $2 million a year. So
he got enough from the Angels, though. All right, guys. City Connect. So we saw the Tigers uniforms on the field. What do you think, Joe? I know you really loved the Tigers uniforms last week when they were revealed. Um, did it hold up for you when you saw them on the field?
I think so. I feel like they just nailed the theme, and that's the thing with some of these uniforms is, do you nail the whole point of this? And with Detroit, they did. And so for on the field, the fact that they didn't go with dark pants made this a lot easier with a lot of the differences there. They had the contrast. It's not like the Reds where it was all black and you couldn't see nothing. It wasn't like the Rays where it was all the gradient stuff where you couldn't make stuff out. They did a nice job with this, and I still think that it's one of my favorites.
I love the hats. I really loved the whole VIN number thing that they did with all the special years and everything else. That was pretty neat.
Yeah.
I will say the pattern actually showed. The royal blue on the navy, you actually saw the tire tread, although I still think it looks more like the D-backs old snakeskin pattern. But you could actually see the pattern. It wasn't lost in like trying to do dark on dark. I don't think it's a great looking set necessarily. Also, I miss the classic old English D. I always loved that look because that was my first ever Little League cap. I lived in Denver at the time, so we all had the old English D. So I've always liked that. But, honestly, it's not a bad set. It won't ever be one of my favorites, but it's not a bad set at all. Jason, since you missed all of it last week, what were your thoughts on it?
I thought they were okay. I do like the theming. I like that you could see the pattern more. Maybe it's just the whole thing with City Connects is they just I don't know. But they were okay. Not my favorite, not my least favorite.
At least you could read everything on them.
Yeah.
All right, and then the Guardians uniforms got leaked accidentally on Sunday, so the Guardians said, fuck it, we're going to release them all now. So they did that Sunday night. Blue uniform tops with sandstone colored pants. They're not white. They look white in the picture, but they're actually sandstone. We'll see how much of a difference that makes in the field. The blue texture in the uniform, again, a detail you will never notice because it's dark blue on dark blue. Influenced by the Berea sandstone material of the Guardians of Traffic statues, as well as buildings throughout the city, touches of red throughout the uniform. I love the red, white, and blue stripes and the sleeves that go down on the sleeves and sides of the jerseys that go all the way down, transition into the pants. They remind me a little bit of the stripe style from Major League, although that was blue, white, red, not red, white, blue. And it's also very reminiscent of the striping that they used in their uniforms in the 1990s. So that was solid. In the front, they did the abbreviation CLE because God forbid they ever spell out the name of the city, but they did it in an Art Deco style typography with detailing based on the Hope Memorial Bridge design, which is also repeated on the numbers on the rear side of the jerseys. Hats tricolor, white in the front with the red C, blue on the sides and a red brim. Sleeve patch of a bat holding Guardian. Honestly, guys, I hope they migrate that patch to the regular uniforms. I liked how that looked. The plans so far, they're going to be worn every Friday home game, but they're allowing the possibility for the players to choose to wear them more often. Apparently, they have been very popular in the clubhouse so far. So, Jason, what are your thoughts on the Guardian City Connect?
I think they're pretty solid. I put them not necessarily at the top, but they're up there for me. I think it looks clean. It looks good. Yeah, I like them.
What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I thought they came out nice. I feel like it would have been maybe better to go with the other nickname for Cleveland, which is the Land.
I'm actually glad they didn't. I'm glad they didn't. Let the Cavs have that. I never liked the Land jerseys that they made for the Cavs.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily saying I like it, but I heard some thoughts of that, and I'm like, yeah, maybe something different. Apparently, like you said, it was well received in the clubhouse. Josh Naylor loves this uniform. He wants to wear it all the time now.
Yeah, I thought I saw. Yeah, Naylor, said he wanted to make it the regular home uniform, which I'm like,
does.
Let's roll it back a little bit.
Yeah, I do think I agree with Jason. It's a solid set. I thought they did a nice job. The hat was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
They finally, it feels like to me, have really in an artistic form kind of shown us what the whole name change was for. Because a lot of us didn't really understand. Like, yes, they explained what Guardians was about, but now to see it kind of in real life on the uniform is pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
The socks, if someone goes high cuff, has that logo on it, with the monument and the bat. So I think there's a lot to like here.
Yeah. I wish they would have spelled out Cleveland personally. I know you would have lost some of the Art Deco effect, but I think you would have still seen enough of it. I'm not wild about the abbreviations for cities personally, but honestly, a solid set. This is, I think it's one of the first City Connect uniforms of the year that actually looks more like a uniform and less like a gimmicky costume. Just my thought. I think Paul Lucas might have said something to that effect as well. But that was one of my first initial thoughts when I saw them Sunday night. Was like, this is a uniform. So props to them for that. And one thing Paul Lucas actually mentioned in his write up today. Props to the Guardians for just releasing the uniforms with good lighting. They didn't make a stupid laser show. They didn't make it out to be this big thing. They used nice lighting so you could actually fully see what the uniforms looked like. So props to the Guardians for that. And I think they're going to translate well in the field, though. I think it's going to be a great look. And honestly, it might be one that they keep in the rotation for the long term. All right, the next City Connect coming up is going to be the Cardinals. That will be unveiled 5/20 and debut on 5/24. After that, the Blue Jays, the Twins, and the Dodgers. And I saw in UniWatch earlier that we might have seen a leak for what the Dodgers City Connect uniforms could be. Because this isn't a confirmed leak yet, I'm not going to go more into speculation other than this, but to say, man, they fucked it up again. And on that note, Jason, how about the Phillies?
Yeah, let's go into the Phillies. So the Phillies had a good week. They started by finishing off a wraparound 4-game sweep of the Giants Monday by winning 6-1. And then after that, they had a mini 2-gamer against the Blue Jays, where they split that. They won 10-1 and then lost the second game 5-3. But then they went on the road into Miami, a team that has given them trouble historically and took 2 out of 3, winning 8-2 and 8-3, then losing the final game 7-6 in 10 innings on a rare Wheeler struggle bus game. Excuse me. Wheeler gave up 6 runs in 4 innings. So he definitely did not have his best stuff that day. So overall, a really solid 4-2 week, beating teams that you got to beat, getting the split against the Blue Jays, which is completely fine because the Blue Jays are a decent team. So yeah, they are still 2 games up on the Braves. It looks like that will probably drop down to 1 after tonight. But again, while the Phils are really beat up, it's a matter of I don't expect them to stay above the Braves right now over the course of this week, just because of how they are missing a lot of productive players. But again, it's tread water, keep your head up, and get through that. And I think they'll be fine. But as of right now, still 2 games up and currently the best record in baseball.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Just stay within striking range right now. It's going to hop back and forth all year between the Braves and the Phillies. And this goes back to what we said in the NL East preview. One team is not going to run away with the division this year.
No.
It's going to be a dogfight.
Yep.
All right. Milestone watch for this week. Ron brought one up in the group chat. Whit Merrifield, he hit double number 250 this past week. So that's our milestone for the week. And guys, here's my question. Let's take a look at teams that had playoff runs but did not end up winning a World Series title, and which one that you thought is the best. Jason, I'll let you go first on this one. I'm
awesome.
Really curious where you went, because there's a lot of ways I could see your twisted mind going on this one.
Yeah. So when I was thinking about like good teams that did not win the World Series. I actually jumped back to the early 2000s in my brain. 2000, 91 wins. 2002, 93 wins. 2003, 93 wins. 2001, 116 wins. The Seattle Mariners.
Mm-hmm.
They were so dominant in the American League West, 2000 through 2003, that 4-year run, and they set the record for 116 wins in a season, and that year they got obliterated by the Yankees in the ALCS 4-1. The Yankees ended up going on to lose the World Series in 7 to the Diamondbacks.
Thank goodness.
That was a Lou Piniella team, and the Mariners not winning a World Series that year, and they didn't even make a World Series in those years. After winning at least 91 games in each of those 4 years.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of great points there. I can't argue that 116 win Mariners team. The fact that they didn't even get out of the championship series is just mind boggling to me. When was the last time you had a team that won 110 games plus and didn't make the World Series? They might be the only one. The Dodgers back in 21, but other than that, I can't think of any other teams that didn't at least go to the World Series despite winning 110 plus. That's insane to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I where I went with this, Jason, was I went with the Cleveland then Indians from 94 to 2001, but I'm going to focus in on 95 through 98 when that team made it to the World Series twice and lost, and also got knocked out of the ALDS and ALCS. So they completed the Triple Crown. They got knocked out of every single round of the playoffs. There was no wild card round back then, let's remember, because it would be a quadruple crown now. Listen to the list of stars that these teams had. Albert Bell, Jim Thome, Kenny Lofton, Omar Vizquel, Manny Ramirez, Sandy Alomar, Matt Williams on offense. And while they weren't known to be great pitching teams, they had some solid guys. They had Oral Hershiser, Charles Nagy, Jose Mesa closing things down, and Bartolo Colon. Listen to some home run numbers here. Albert Bell in 95 had 50 home runs and 48 in 96. Thome, who was there throughout, 25 in 95, 38 in 96, 40 in 97, and 30 in 98. Manny hit 45 in 98. Their batting lines were nuts as a team. 291, 293, 286, 272. Team home runs, 207, 218, 221, 98. And they stole a minimum of 118 bases a year with that power. Now, I know Kenny Lofton definitely helps boost that number because he was a fiend on the bats, but they would average between 5.25 and 5.9 runs per game during that run. And they actually, even after that, they did better. I think they had a couple years in the early 2000s where they had 6 runs a game. And the pitching was solid. They were definitely better known for their hitting, but they had solid pitching. They gave up between 4.2 and 5.06 runs a game, team ERAs between 383 and 473, but they got their strikeouts, 926 to 1,037 over that time. So, that for me, just watching that team get obliterated in the World Series twice, like a team with that much power. You understand Atlanta's big three because finesse pitchers tend to neutralize power pitchers when they hit their spots. Because if you look at 95, the pitcher who got rocked was John Smoltz because he tried to throw gas and they threw gas back at him. But then the fact that they couldn't get it done against the expansion Marlins 2 years later, to me, they are one of the best teams to get there and never even win one. I know they have some wins in their past, but the fact that those teams made it and could not get the whole way there and win a World Series is just mind blowing. And Joe, what about you? We gave you, I think, two of the best to start with. Did you have any other ones that you were thinking besides those?
Not necessarily. I think those are the two that really stand out. They were the best of their eras, and unfortunately, their trophy case is blank. So, what can I say? The fact that the Mariners had all of that talent and just couldn't put it together and get
so
through.
Here, oh, sorry, Joe. I'll say, so here's the lineup with some stats for you. So the 2001 Seattle Mariners that won 116 games. Dan Wilson, John Olerud, Brett Boone, Carlos Guillen, David Bell, Al Martin, Mike Cameron, Ichiro Suzuki, and Edgar Martinez. And to give you some stats overall here, where did it? There it goes. Okay. So Brett Boone in the third spot, 37 home runs, 141 RBI.
Holy damn.
Edgar Martinez, 23 home runs, 116 RBI. Mike Cameron, 25 home runs, 110 RBI. Ichiro Suzuki only had 8 home runs and 69 RBI, but he had 56 stolen bases. And he was only caught 14.
Not to mention that cannon of an arm he had.
Right. And then you had some of their utility guys. You had who was upset out here? Jay Buhner, Scott Podsednik.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then your pitchers. You had a rotation that included Freddie Garcia, Aaron Soleil, Jamie Moyer, who was probably like only 60 at that time. Paul Abbott, John Halama, and Joel Pinheiro. And they won 18 games, 15 games, 20 games, 17 games, and 10 games, and 6 games. None of them had double-digit losses. The most losses for somebody in that rotation was John Halama, who went 10-7.
Damn.
In 17 games started. So he didn't even have any no decisions. And then you had Kazuhiro Sasaki, who would close games for them. He had 45 saves. And that was in, well, it doesn't say how many opportunities he had, but so I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
Just to put Olerud's RBI number in perspective, when Albert Bell hit 50, he only had 126 RBIs. 140,
yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Brett Boone, 37 home runs, 141 RBI. And that's with striking out 110 times.
Which was bad back then.
Yeah,
not accepted like it is today.
His batting average was a 331 that season.
Wow.
I guess he do that.
His slash line was 331, 372, 578, 950.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it's just insane how good and deep those teams were. I got to give the edge to Seattle with those numbers that Jason mentioned. And because, 3-1, sorry, Cleveland, don't care.
Just and one other point to that with RBIs, that's like the all-time single season records Hack Wilson back in 1930. You've got to go pretty far down the list before you find a guy that cracks into the list that I would consider a modern guy. That'd be Manny Ramirez in 99. He had 165. That's only the 14th best all time. Like, you don't see RBI numbers like that very often. That's nuts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Never in your wildest dreams do you expect a team to win 116 games and not win a championship.
Well, and to not, it's not even like that they didn't win the World Series. They didn't make the World Series.
Yeah.
And it was a 5-game ALCS that they lost 4 games to 1.
Yeah.
I want to. Now I'm curious because now I want to know what the scores of that game were. 2001 ALCS. So the scores of that game of that series. Game summaries. Game 1, Yankees won 4-2 in Seattle. Game 2, Yankees won 3-2 in Seattle. So Seattle lost both games at home to start. Game 3, Seattle got in there on the board with a 14-3 win, including a 7-run 6th inning. But then the Yankees bounced back with a 3-1 win in Game 4, and then they close it off in dominating fashion, 12-3 in the last one. So, absolutely insane.
That's nuts.
Yeah. All I can say is that it was number one, it's May 13th, put your cardigans away. Number 2, it was a cruel summer for both of those teams.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, to see domination like that in the regular season and then just fall completely apart like that in the postseason, just nuts.
And number 3 is I'm glad it didn't take 22 years for them to get back to the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, gotta love it. All right, so moving on. Atlanta had a very short week this last week. They swept the Red Sox in a 2-game where they won 4-2, 5-0, then took 2 out of 3 from the Mets, 4-2, 4-1, then lost 4-3 in a walk-off home run last night with Minter on the mound in the 9th for idiotic reasons. Just quickly with the Red Sox series, got to watch Crawford pitch for the Red Sox. The kid's got good stuff, guys. He's a solid pitcher. He's got very, very, very good instincts on the mound. 6 innings, 5 hits. He only gave up 2 runs, 2 walks, and he struck out 6. 87 pitches and threw 58 of them for strikes. He left the game despite giving up 2 runs with an ERA at 1.75. Kid's going to be good for a long time. I really like watching him pitch. Not necessarily against Atlanta, but I do like watching him pitch. He's very good. And then the thing I got frustrated with the most was, of course, the game on Saturday. Atlanta was 1 out away from the first no-hitter since 1994. 1994, and the Braves were up 4-0 going into the 9th, and instead of bringing on somebody else, they brought out the closer in a non-save situation, which if you've watched the show enough, you'll know that all 3 of us hate bringing out the closer in a non-save situation. Now,
the only time I don't hate it is when this happens.
Well, yeah, of course. Of course.
That's not even me saying that.
I know. I know. So, I get it. It was 3-0 going into the 9th. And then the Braves didn't score that 4th run until late. Like Jesse Chavez was stretching, but he was not warmed up and ready to go in because it didn't look like it was going to turn into a non-save opportunity. I get that. It makes it no less frustrating that Iglesias shouldn't have been out there. Because on Sunday, if he would have been out there in the 9th inning, he wouldn't have thrown 5 straight cutters and grooved the last one right down the middle like Minter did, causing a 2-run home run to a guy who was hobbled and sitting on the bench and wasn't going to start in any way. And frankly, was probably surprised that he was asked to pinch hit in the 9th. So just not happy with the management of the bullpen there. I get it. They really didn't have a chance. If the inning would have gone on another batter, Chavez probably would have been warmed enough to come in, but they didn't want to. And I get that. I don't want to see a guy get hit because they rush him in because they want to save the closer. But still, it's frustrating as hell. And the fact that Minter is pitching right now in the 9th against the Cubs up 2-0 with the guy on first scares the ever-loving hell out of me after last night. Just going to say that. All right, guys, let's move it on. Joe, anything for Bring Out the Good this week?
I will highlight. We've talked about him a ton, but this is for. I'm not annoyed about talking about him for this one. Paul Skenes, he's donating $100 for every strikeout to the Gary Sinise Foundation um, to help and assist veterans. Gary Sinise, of course, is the actor who played Lieutenant Dan. For those who don't remember, he does a lot of great work for veterans, and it's nice to see a guy who has the arm to throw a bunch of strikeouts do something with that. So, hat tip to Paul Skenes for that.
Absolutely. All right. Moving it on to the hot list, guys. I'm going to lead it off with Brent Rooker of Oakland, the outfielder, 393, 469, 679 this past week, 28 at bats, 11 hits, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 7 runs scored, 7 RBIs, a stolen base, 4 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Jason, who do you have?
Leody Taveras of the Rangers, slash line of 360, 467, 600, 1.067, 2 home run, 5 RBI, 2 stolen base, and 5 walks.
Not bad. Joe, who's your top hitter of the week? You're muted.
My bad. Marcus Semien of the Rangers, 500, 517 on base, 769 slug, and a 1286 OPS. 8 runs on 13 hits, a double, 2 homers, making up those 13 hits, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts.
Not bad. And who is Moneyball for the week?
Moneyball is Eddie Rosario, who I believe plays for the Nationals, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
467, on base of 600, a slugging of 1133, and an OPS of 1733. 7 runs on 7 hits, a double, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 5 walks, only struck out twice during that stretch, and 3 stolen bases for the week.
All right, not bad at all. All right, moving on to the hot pitchers. I have Bailey Ober of Minnesota, 2 starts. He went 1-0, 11 in the 3rd inning, 17 strikeouts, 1.59 ERA, a .44 WHIP. He gave up 2 earned runs, 4 hits, a walk, and 1 home run. Not bad. Jason, who do you have for top pitcher?
I went with Yu Darvish, 2-0 this week, 12 innings pitched, 5 hits, no earned runs, so no ERA, 2 walks, and 12 strikeouts.
All right. Joe?
I went with fellow Padre Dylan Cease, who, as I mentioned, destroyed the Cubs this week. 1-0, and winning that start, obviously. 7 innings, 1 hit, which was a dribbler in the infield. Somehow Yan Gomes made it to first before getting thrown out. I don't know how, but hit 1 batter, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts in this game. A whip of .43, a batting average against of 0.48. And the highlight of this too was 113 pitches. He was close to 100 after 6, and they let him in for the 7th. He did a bang up job. This was the Dylan Cease revenge game against the Cubs, and it's all sorts of good times.
All right. And Joe, who's the adulting reliever of the week?
I had a lot of choices this week, but I went with Tyler Kinley of the Colorado Rockies. 1-0, made 3 appearances, 3 in the 3rd innings, no hits, no runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, a .30 whip. Absolutely dominant in a collection of appearances. Honorable mentions were Johan Duran and Reed Garrett, but I felt like Kinley, just the amount of the volume of pitching that he did made him the standout this week.
Yeah, no arguments there. That's a hell of a line. All right, hot teams. Obviously, Jason, the Phillies, we will keep them on there. They have not lost that steam yet. I would also throw the Dodgers and the Padres on there right now. As much as I'd like to put Atlanta on, it was only a 5-game week. Let's give them a little more time to see if they really are heating back up again. And then I think I would also like to toss on both the Orioles and the Yankees as well. As much as it pains me to say the Yankees on the damn hot list. Any thoughts, guys? Additions, subtractions?
The Rockies are on a 4-game winning streak, so I mean that's by definition they're on a roll. So I would add them to this.
Oh, damn! Yes, they are. Wow.
So that would be the only addition to this, I think.
It's probably their longest winning streak in 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, when you expect your team to win 100 games and they lose 100 and whatever, that'll happen. All right. So looking at the week ahead, Braves and Cubs game 1 just ended. Atlanta held on 2-0. The matchup tonight was Lopez versus Imananga. Joe, both starters went 5 and Imananga struck out 8.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Beautiful. Lopez did pretty well as well. Imananga was definitely the better pitcher tonight, though. Tomorrow we've got Chris Sale versus Tyone, and then Morton versus Assad on Wednesday, and then Atlanta, I believe, this is the start of their long hell stretch where they don't have a day off, I believe, until early June. They have a 4-gamer with the Padres because they have an off day between the Cubbies and the Padres, so they're doing MLB is doing that stupid 4-game rapid into the next Monday, which makes no sense at all. So Fried versus Waldron. Fried coming off a no-hitter appearance last time. Elder versus Darvish, Lopez versus Vasquez, Sale versus Cease is the Monday matchup. It's going to be that'll be a great matchup next Monday. So if I seem distracted next week, that's probably why. So Joe, what are your thoughts on the pitching matchups for the rest of the week?
I know that we'll see what Tyone does. The only reason he didn't start Sunday is they were trying to give him an extra day or two at the back that was flaring up a little. I had not heard who they haven't, as far as I know, they haven't officially announced who's pitching Wednesday for the Cubs. But if it's Assad, that's fine. He's been pitching really well, getting consistently, into the 5th inning or so, and doing a decent job. The biggest thing is can the offense kind of continue to materialize? Can the pitching do just enough, and can the bullpen not shit the bed? I mean, that's the biggest thing with all of the injuries they've dealt with, is that it's led a lot of uncertainty in the bullpen. I would offer a suggestion to Jed and Craig Counsell. It's worked pretty well in the March to October in the show. Put Jordan Wicks in the bullpen and put him up there against every lefty lineup, because it works for me. And if it works in a video game, it can't be wrong, right?
I mean, my video game Braves teams have been pretty damn successful themselves. So just
to me, it's the move that makes the most sense for them, is because he hasn't shown the ability to get past the 4th inning. And if you can't get past the 4th inning, I don't want you starting. I want you in the bullpen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All righty, and then Joe, for the rest of the week for you, it's 4 versus the Pirates, Steele versus Joan, Hendricks versus Skenes. Imagine that, you get Skenes again back to back like that. Imananga versus Falter, and then TBD versus Keller. So let's see how you do against Paul Skenes Part 2. I mean that's rough. But
Paul Skenes hasn't pitched in Wrigley on a day game on a Friday like this, so that crowd is always wild. Shout out to the CHGO Friday 120 Club, because they'll be rocking into bleachers for sure.
Well, and one thing to point out, and I remember we mention it probably every year, and it's a lot of times with Braves Phillies just because of me and Jason. 1 week, one team's pitchers are going to do really well, but when there's a turnaround they face the next week, that same set of pitchers usually gets rocked because the hitters just saw them and they lock in faster. So, maybe you'll get locked on faster.
And remember, he's at home. Yeah, I mean, and remember, he's a rookie. You've seen him once now, and in reality, you got to him this last time. Like, he only went 4 innings, so right. I think the Cubs will maybe learn from what they saw this past week, and who knows.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is one of those weird weeks, like you said. We play you the beginning of the week, and we play you next week.
Yeah, it's
after Monday off day, so it's really weird.
This schedule right now,
Pirates Braves. That's the from starting last week. That's the next week and a half for the Cubs. It's really stupid.
That's so dumb. Phillies this week have this
Speaking
is
of dumb.
Yeah. Well, so why is it 2 in New York and then 2 in Philadelphia? Is there a makeup in there, or that's how it was scheduled?
That's how it was scheduled.
What the hell?
I don't know.
Okay, so anyway, the probables for this idiotic series: Sanchez versus Manaea, Nola versus Butto, Suarez versus Quintana, Walker versus Scott. Watch out for Tanner Scott. I'm just going to say he doesn't get enough offensive support, but he is throwing really well. I was impressed watching him against us.
Christian Scott. Tanner Scott's the closer for the Marlins.
Thank you. My bad. The other Scott.
For the record. But yeah, Christian Scott has been lights out in his first 2 starts.
Yeah. And then 3 versus the Nets, Wheeler versus Irvin, Sanchez versus Gordon, Nola versus Williams. And Jason is hoping against all hope that JT is back behind the plate for the Wheeler start. If he doesn't play at all the rest of the week, he just wants him there. Am I right?
Although I fully expect that we won't have the Wheeler start on Friday because there's probably going to be a rainout because we have Friday's game.
Yeah, probably.
So
that's true. The Ricker effect and the weather is real.
Right. But I am actually really excited for that because it'll be my first time seeing the City Connect in person. Mm-hmm. So I'll be interested in seeing that. But no, like this is a big week. My goal with the series against the Mets is to just somehow manage a split, try and get a 2-2 here. As you're managing the injury bug that's going around currently. And then home against the Nats, got to take 2 out of 3 there. And I don't see why they can't. It's the Nationals and you're in Philly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely need to get JT and Schwarber back here soon to help with that.
And then the Orioles, 3 versus the Blue Jays, Burns versus Barrios, Bradish versus Bassett, Irvin versus Kikuchi. And then 3 versus the Mariners, Means versus Miller, Kremer versus Castillo, Burns versus Kirby. I'm really curious to see how the Orioles bats do against the Mariners' arms because they're facing 2 of the best that the Mariners have in Castillo and Kirby this week. So that's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on.
Well, I can give you an update here where the Orioles did lose in 10 innings tonight to the Blue Jays. It was 3-2, I believe it was. Adley Rutschman, the lone run support with two solo home runs tonight. His first two home run game, actually.
Earlier, Jason, before you hopped on, I was telling Joe about the headline on MLB at the time. It said, Adley Rutschman ropes one and ruins perfectly good pitching duel.
Yeah. So the Orioles did lose tonight, but they should be okay in this series. But yeah, I agree that the Mariners series is going to be an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Some really fun matchups there.
Yep. All right, guys. Anything else for the week?
I don't think so.
All right. So, folks, you can find audio recordings on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. The Twitter handle is at DDAB_podcast. All 4 of us are on there as well. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. Joe's at JoltonJoe35. Ron's at Dipner We're presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by Baron Barbershop in Mannheim. Johnny, I'll see you tomorrow around noon because, this is getting a little out of control, man. May your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. And I want to give a shout out to my oldest son, Jason, whose birthday is on Wednesday. Happy birthday, buddy. Hope it's a good one. Hope the Braves win one for you on your birthday. Take it easy, guys.